Hi and welcome to Nattabox, which is the podcast where I get the chance to speak to some fantastic and inspirational people from the world of music, entertainment, sports, business, health and well-being. And I am particularly excited to speak with my guest today, who was put on my radar via a mutual contact. And they said, Natalie, if you want anyone to get onto your podcast that is definitely an inspiration, you need to speak to this lady. Now, she has decided to not only sail, but she's going to be rowing the Southern Atlantic from the Canaries to the English Harbour in Antigua, and that equates to almost, I believe it's around 3,000 miles, and it's all to raise money for the Menopause Society. So I would like to welcome today's guest, who is the fabulous Viv Barclay. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today, and for travelling so far as well, because of course you're not someone, we're based here in the Midlands, but you are based up north.
I am, so near Lancaster. So I was born in a little place called Settle, which is in North Yorkshire. And I live about 12 miles away from there, between Settle and Lancaster. So it is officially up north. Up north.
Well, like I said, you are one of my furthest guests so far. So very much appreciate you taking the time to come down.
Thank you for having me.
Now, as I just mentioned, there's a mutual contact that we have that put us in contact with each other. And as soon as she said, Natalie, would you like someone who's decided to row the Atlantic to raise some money for a charity? And I said, did you just say row? And she said, yes, she's rowing the Atlantic. And obviously when we had a sort of good natter, I thought, I've just got to get you on, because there's certain challenges that people take up for charities. And it might be jumping out of a plane. It might be, I'm going to do a 10K or a half marathon, or push themselves to a marathon. But 3,000 miles to row solo to me, it's unheard of.
It's a bit nuts.
Just a little bit. Yeah. So, before we come to that, what's sort of your background and when it comes to sort of work and business and family life and everything? Tell us a little bit about you.
So as I say, I'm born in North Yorkshire.
Yeah.
I am the youngest of 4 siblings. My mum worked for a private school as a secretary. My dad was an electrician. And just an ordinary family. But I've probably always had a bit of an adventurous spirit. And it started with a walk to my grandmother's. So where we lived, I walked through the mill yard and up past the caravan site, over a railway bridge, across the main road, through the village to my grandma's house, knocked on the door. And she opened the door and looked at me, and she was really quite astonished. She was like, what the heck are you doing here?
How old were you?
I was 3.
You're joking?
No.
Wow. Oh, my God. Did you get into trouble?
My mum wasn't best pleased because my grandma phoned her up and said, where's our Viv? And she said, oh, she's playing in the back garden. And grandma said, no, she's not. She's here.
At your front door?
Yeah. So I was there. I remember staying and having lunch with grandma. So we had tomato soup.
Right.
But my mum came and picked me up, and she wasn't best pleased. But yeah, since then I've travelled as far east as Japan. I've been to the south of Argentina. I've been as far north as the Arctic Circle in Finland, and as far west as California. And business-wise, I trained as a lot of my business life has been in retail, so retail management. And then I went into direct sales, and I was selling offices.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Spain and did the typical kind of things that you do when you move to Spain. So worked as an English teacher and then as an estate agent. And then I was there for 8 years.
What part of Spain were you in?
6 years, so just south of Barcelona. And it was great. And then we had 6 months in Argentina while we were there as well.
Living?
Travelling.
Right.
Yeah, so not it wasn't a permanent move. It was just it was an extended holiday.
Yeah.
And then I came back in 2010 when my mum was diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Right,
and I was helping my dad to look after my mum. So I left all of that behind. And then I trained as a coach while I was helping my dad with my mum's care. And but it was difficult to keep the coaching going. Help my dad.
Dedicate some more time, yeah.
And then after Mum passed away, she passed away in 2017, and in 2019, that time after she died, it was really quite a rough time. And although we'd been kind of expecting it, it was quite difficult to deal with. And I needed to do something just to get out of my head. And I started doing creative things. And I came across beeswax wraps, and I had a go at making them, and they turned out pretty good.
So these are food wraps?
They are food wraps. So you use them instead of using cling film and foil. So they're reusable.
Right.
And you just wipe them over and rinse them off after you've used them. But you just use the heat from your hands to mould them and make them stick, and you can use them over plates and over bowls. You can wrap them directly over the ends of fruit and veg as well. So like the end of a butternut squash or cucumber, or wrapping up half an avocado, kind of thing. They're really good for bread. It's really great for cheese. And we use beeswax because it's naturally antibacterial. So whatever you're covering and wrapping up, it keeps it much fresher. So you're cutting down on food waste as well as cutting down on single-use plastic.
Well, you learn something new every day, because I have still stick to the traditional roots of, or I was up until now, sticking to the traditional roots of cling film, foil. But yeah, I didn't realise it was as versatile as that. So
yeah, it's and there's quite a lot of people out there that know about it, but there's an awful lot of people.
What made you decide to get into that specifically?
I just, I was just experimenting, Natalie, I think, and just, because I knew that by making cards and lampshades and that kind of thing, for me, I wasn't good enough to at making cards and lampshades and things, to make a career out of it. Yeah. And so I was just looking for something that I could do well, that I could feel proud of, and that was making a difference. And these do make a difference. And
it's still going strong on that front.
It's still going strong, despite the fact that we've had COVID, we've had a cost of living crisis. It's not been easy, but I'm still going, and I'm making a living. And judging by the way this year has started off, then it's going
to be going well.
It's going to be going well, yeah.
Well, from when we first spoke, I knew that you sort of came across as a very determined individual. Just to go back initially, with regards to your mom, and obviously huge condolences for your loss. And I'm sure, based on what it is that you've been doing up until now, what you continue to do, that she's going to be sort of looking down, very, very proud. How did that feel when you heard about the diagnosis, and how old was your mom when you found out that she had Alzheimer's?
She died when she was 82, so I think she was diagnosed at least 10 years before.
And were there initial signs before the diagnosis, or did it just sort of, was it something that just came?
Yeah, so I remember my dad phoned me one day, and because my mum had phoned him and she couldn't find the car, she'd gone to Skipton, local town, parked the car, and then I contacted my dad and contacted the police because she said the car had been stolen.
Right.
And she parked it in one car park and went back to another one. And so the police found where the car was. And so she drove back, and there was a bit of a, it was, oh my goodness, anyway, she went, she was diagnosed fairly shortly after that, because it wasn't the only thing. So it was her spatial awareness. So she became really unsafe driving as well. So she was, wasn't very good at judging distances and that kind of thing. So she had quite a few near-do's, as we say. Yeah. And so, yes, and then being able to recognise things like money, like differentiate between the different coins.
Right, okay.
And that was something else.
So was she more affected by the long-term memory or the short-term memory? Because I know with some people it can differ. And I always kind of get confused as well, because you've got Alzheimer's and dementia. Yeah. And so what was it that she sort of struggled with more? So
the Alzheimer's is the disease it's got the... it's like plaque, I suppose, that kind of builds up around the nerve endings, and so it stops the transmission of information.
Right.
And vascular dementia is to do with the veins. I'm not really quite sure, so I'm not an expert, but it's they are two different things. But the vascular dementia, the Alzheimer's, her long-term memory, and I mean like way back, was there, but her very short-term memory and then the mid-term memories as well were just, they just completely disappeared. So after a while, after I came back in 2010, I'd say probably about 3 years later, so 2013, she forgot who I was.
Really? Completely?
Yeah, so the only person that was her anchor, I suppose, was my dad. She knew who he was. Sometimes couldn't remember his name, but she knew that he was there to help her. But she thought that it was my job. She thought that I was
a carer.
I was a carer.
Really?
Yeah.
And then what was the impact then on your dad at that stage? Because I'm assuming that your parents been together for a long time.
50 years. Yeah.
So what impact did that have on him?
It's hard to say. I mean, he found it really frustrating, I think, and obviously she wasn't his wife anymore. And I do recall him talking about, times that they had together, and he does that now.
Yeah.
He remembers her when, they went on holidays to Europe together. But that particular time while she was going through dementia, I don't know, because it's it's a slow progression that you just cope with it.
Yeah.
And I guess you find yourself changing as she changed, but you're not conscious of it. You don't really realise it. You're just dealing with it.
Because I think people that I've got some friends who have lost grandparents to Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's almost as if it's a mourning process before they've actually even passed, because the person that you once knew is not that person anymore. And it's heart-wrenching to think that the person that you know is still in there, but not being able to get them. I don't know if you've ever seen a film called The Notebook. Yes, and I hadn't watched this film. My friend, because especially when it comes to sort of romantic movies, my friend was like, Natalie, you've never seen The Notebook. And the first time I saw it was probably about 3 months ago. And various people said, you of all people, when you love a sort of a nice romantic movie. But as you're talking to me about your mum and dad's journey, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. And the fact that she was still able to recognise, or he was sort of that, as you said, that anchor.
There was that connection there, but with the rest of us, then it had gone. I
think as well, because you say your dad's 93 now.
He is 93.
And still going strong. I'm fascinated by the fact that you said that he's still out there playing golf. Yeah.
He'll be out there today.
Will he really?
Yeah. Oh, he'll be on the driving range.
At the very least.
Yeah, because the golf course is a bit flooded. But no, he goes out on the driving range nearly every day. Well, at least 5 days a week.
In which case?
And when the course is playable, then he plays on a Thursday and he'll play on a Sunday as well.
I think that's brilliant. The fact that a 93-year-old man can probably hit way further than what I can when it comes to his golf.
And he's always watching YouTube videos. He's always, all about improving the technique.
Yeah. And
he's been playing since he was 40. And he's so interested. He so wants to improve his game.
Well, he sounds like an incredible man. And I'm interested to know what he thought when you turned around and said, oh, Dad, guess what I'm going to be doing? Because as you'd mentioned, after you've gone through all of this with your mom, and then obviously you had to deal with the loss. I mean, you, as you said, you were sat there and you reached sort of a very sort of down moment, which is understandable, the loss of anybody. But also there was sort of the hormonal changes were happening for you at the same time. So if we can pick back up there, what happened? You were sort of sat there one day and things weren't good.
Yeah, so I was, because that was the thing with helping to look after mum, that I was going through menopause at the time as well. Right. And so I remember sat in the car one day, and I got to the junction at the bottom of our road, and I just sat there and screamed my head off because it was just
too much.
Just too much. It was just too much. And but then I had to get myself together and drive there and just get on with it. But it was very difficult. But I did spend an awful lot of time ligging about on the sofa watching Netflix when I wasn't looking after mum.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching BBC Breakfast one morning, and there were 4 women from York who were doing the Atlantic row. And they were called the Yorkshire Rows, and they were a similar age to me, sort of late 40s, early 50s. And something just went doing in my head. And I'm like, yep, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to do that the same as them. And if they can do it, then I can do it.
Not just to think, I'm going to start and join a rowing club. You thought, I'm going to row the Atlantic.
Yeah. It didn't even occur to me to join a rowing Probably would have been a good start. No, it was just like, no, I'm going to row the Atlantic. But because of the situation with my parents and where I was mentally and physically, it was stuck in the back of my mind, but I didn't do anything about it. And then in 2020, there was another guy that went across called Frank Rothwell.
Mm.
And Frank is now the owner of Oldham Football Club. And so he went across in 2020, and he was 70 at the time. And so he became the oldest man to row the Atlantic solo. And I thought, crikey, if a 70-year-old can do it, then I can definitely do it. And so I signed up that year. And so that was 2021.
Mm.
And this year was the first year that they actually had space.
Right.
So there's quite a few people that know about it, that want to take part.
So you're going to be doing this in December.
Yeah.
Like I said, what did your dad say? And then what did because you've got a couple of daughters as well.
Yeah.
When you turn around, because I'm trying to imagine if my mum was to turn around to me and say, do you know what? I've had enough of your dad for a bit. I need a break. I've decided I'm going to row the Atlantic. I'd be like, you want? So what did they all say? Initially,
I was really worried about telling Dad.
Right.
Because I didn't want to worry him.
Yeah.
Because I know that
they're always going to be daddy's little girls as well. Yeah.
He'll start and he'll be asking all sorts of questions, which he has done since, but he'll be asking all sorts of questions. And I thought, until I know that I'm definitely doing it, I don't see any point in worrying him, so I'm not going to tell him. And so I had this like little secret, and I had told a couple of other people, but I'm like, don't tell Dad. I'll do it when I'm ready. And then I went to La Gomera to watch the start of not last year's race, but the race before. And people were saying to me, what do your family think? And I'm like, I haven't told my dad yet. And somebody said to me, what do you mean you haven't told your dad? You better get on with it. You better tell him, So anyway, when I got back, I was like, I'm going to tell him. And so I walked in, and he was like, have you had a good few days away, and where have you been? And so I told him all about the start of the race. Mm. And he's like, And I said, so I'm going to do it, Dad. And he said, yeah, you've got to have some adventure in your life.
He knows you too well. Yeah. And what about the girls?
And so the girls, the way that with my oldest daughter, Ellie, I said to her, do you fancy a holiday in Antigua? And she went, yeah.
Who wouldn't?
And I said, well, you fly there and I'll meet you there. And she said, well, how are you getting there? And I said, well, I'm going to row across. And she was like, but she told her dad and I aren't together anymore, but she told her dad, and he said, yeah, I can imagine her doing that. She's got the right sort of temperament to do that. So I took that as a real big vote of confidence.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
So when we say row now, because this was the other thing, when you mentioned this, my first, I went straight to just a normal rowing boat. You see people on a lake and everything. And I'm thinking, how on earth are you going to deal with that? But obviously when I've actually seen the a picture of I don't even know what the word is to describe it. It's not your bog standard rowing machine, just to sort of, and I'm sure we'll be able to, Liam with his wonderful editing skills, will be able to sort of show up some kind of a picture of the vessel that you're going to be in.
Yeah.
How does this work? Because you're doing this solo, and just to make note as well, that when you achieve this, you will be, is it a world record holder?
Yeah, because I'll be 59 when I do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the current age record is held by a lady called Diana Hoff, and that was set in the year 2000, and she was 55 when she did it. And so her record still stands.
Yeah.
And so when I do it, I'll be 59. So
now, is it right that there's only around 1,700 people that have completed this so far?
Yeah.
And you're going to be the 27th woman?
I think it's the 30th now.
Right,
or
okay.
31st. There's been a few other people that have been across. But yeah. But most of those people are under 40.
Right.
There are only 6 women over 60 that have been across the Atlantic at all. And they've been in teams.
Were they, before of those, the ones that you saw on BBC Breakfast? Or were they over 60 or under?
No, they were under. So they were late 40s, early 50s at the time. Yeah, so yes, very few. Frank, I think, has probably inspired a lot more older people. There's certainly older guys that are definitely giving it a go. But ladies, not so much.
So are you a gym bunny? Are you a fitness fanatic? Are you someone who sort of, pushes yourself and then you just thought, I can easily do this? Or is this literally just a kind of even exercise almost starting from scratch for you?
I am famously consistently inconsistent with my training and exercise. So I go through periods of, I did aerobics and I did martial arts and that kind of thing, and really enjoyed it. I did cycling, I really enjoyed that. Did lots of walking, really enjoyed that. But I've kind of done things for a period of time and then not done anything for a period of time and then started again. And my training for the row has been inconsistent as well.
Right.
But I know I'll still get across. I do enjoy training on the row machine. I do enjoy going to the gym. I've just done a sponsored row in Booths in Kirkby Lonsdale. So I took the row machine and I did 56 miles on that. But I hadn't trained for the 2 weeks prior. And I didn't train for 2 weeks afterwards. And I'm still fine. Yeah, I'm fine. So I know that I know there's a strength there. I know that I can keep going. And I am inconsistent. I know that I'm inconsistent, but I'm also capable of doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done.
And the fact that you've decided to do this now as well for the Menopause Society, because
Menopause Charity.
Yeah. So when we first spoke, I automatically assumed, said, "Oh, are you doing this to raise funds for Alzheimer's?" Because obviously we've spoken about the situation.
Yeah.
And actually, no, I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it to raise money for menopause, which is not something that you hear every day.
No.
Obviously, there's sort of, I think years back, to talk about menopause, it was a real kind of almost like a taboo conversation to have. When my mum when mum was about outperforming and everything, she talks about when she has her hot flushes and stuff on stage. She's been doing that for years. So my mum's always been very open about it. But I know that there's a lot of other people that haven't been, and whatever stigma was associated with it before seems to be changing, which I think is a good thing. But again, you don't hear of people raising money for menopause. So why did you choose that as your chosen charity?
Specifically for that reason, because you don't really see people doing anything for the menopause charity. You don't see people. I have never seen, maybe people have run the marathon, I don't know. I know people go out there hiking and biking, but I've not specifically seen anybody, and I know for sure there's been nobody across the Atlantic raising money for menopause. But they do really, really important work. And they've just been recognised recently for the standard of information that they provide about menopause. So it's an accredited level of information. So they're not just churning out guff that can't be relied upon.
Yeah.
And it's not just sort of gossipy stuff, handed down or anything like that. So it is properly evidence-based information. And so they help to train medical professionals, because medical professionals don't get that much support with it. And even within my own practice, my own little practice where I live, that two different streams of thought regarding menopause, and I've been on the receiving end of both, So there does need to be a better source of information out there.
Because I think there's still so much about it that people just don't know. And even, you start to hear now within the workplace that people are only now just starting to recognise that menopause is something that needs to be taken into consideration.
I think it was made fun of before. I think it was used as a thing to have a go at women about, to be, they're oversensitive, overdramatic, that kind of thing. I do remember when my mum was going through it, that even from the medical professionals, that there was a certain amount of, eye rolling, and it wasn't taken very seriously, really. And it wasn't talked about. It was just like, what's
so much
with
like
mum?
get on with it.
It's women's problems, and it was taboo. And it wasn't talked about openly, and it was a source of, poking fun at people and making unkind comments about, I think. And it is changing. While I was doing this row in booths, I did have a couple of people say to me, "And what charity are you raising money for?" So I said the menopause charity, and there was a couple of guys that said to me, "What's the point of that?
Did they really?
Raising money for that for? Why do you need a charity for menopause?" And somebody else said to me as well, when I said that I was running for the menopause charity, they thought that it was a weak message. And I thought, really, that points to how much things still need to change, how the message needs to change about it.
Did those comments spur you on even more?
Absolutely. It's 15.5 million women at any one time in the UK. That's over a quarter of the population going through menopause. Women leave work because of it. Families break down because of it. Women think they're going mad. They think I remember the first time I had heart palpitations, I was paralysed almost with fear, because I thought I was developing heart problems, and didn't realise it was as a result of the hormonal changes in my body. And I didn't know until I came across an article about heart palpitations, and then seeing the list of 43, 45 different symptoms that you get with menopause. But a lot of the time it's misdiagnosed as anxiety or depression, and needs to change. And I'd be, honoured to be part of something that helps to change that narrative.
Do you like the fact that you are someone that will be, I think it's fair to say, empowering a lot of women who are in the same situation, sort of sat there probably feeling quite lonely and isolated because no one understands what's going on with their bodies? To hear someone like you that has just decided to, I say, take the bull by the horns and think, right, I'm going to do this. And for the organisation that you're raising money for, do you like the fact that there's going to be a lot of women who are going to think, oh my gosh, if she can do this? Not to say they're all going to go on to choose to row the Atlantic, but it might empower them to do something. Yeah,
they've all got their Atlantic Oceans there. They've all got. I spoke to somebody who she was the same age as me, and she'd taken early retirement, and she was just kind of cruising. And I was telling her about the row and what I was going to do, and she got really emotional, and she was like, "Crikey, this is really." It kind of. She took a step back, and started, she said, I'm going to go away and start thinking about what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. My my one wild and precious life, which is a quote that Diana Nyad turns to quite regularly. And as far as we know, we're only here the once.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me a very deep feeling of satisfaction knowing that one person is going to do something different. He's going to live their life. He's not just going to exist.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for myself. And it's what I want for my girls as well. It's all about living life and giving it meaning and making a difference, making a positive difference, and that's really what's driving me. That's really why I'm doing it.
Now, I mean, I'm assuming as well that you connected with the menopause charity. So what did they say when they found out what you were doing?
They were a bit flabbergasted, I think.
Were they really?
And they're a bit flabbergasted.
Is this one of the biggest things anyone's ever done for them? If not the...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the chief exec is... so I'm picking the boat up at the end of this month.
Right.
So when I get the boat, then she's coming to visit. So I'm going to do some training on Windermere initially.
Nice. Beautiful.
And so, hopefully she'll come and visit.
So coming to the actual vessel itself, because like I said, it's a beast. It's not just, like I said, a normal rowing machine. And in order for you to be able to do this, because I think ideally, you're not ideally, but your sort of starting figure in terms of what you wanted to raise for the charity was a minimum of sort of 10K. I know you're looking at, I've got no doubts you're going to go on to completely surpass that. But in order to even to get started, you have to raise £120,000. And that is, so what does that involve? Is that to secure the vessel itself and all this secure? I'm assuming there's going to be a hell of a lot of security gear and everything to go with it.
Yeah, so the vessel itself, buying the boat is the biggest expense. And that's sorted. So of the 120,000, I've raised about half of that.
Right, okay.
So far.
Well done.
So thank you. So I've got another 59.
And that's been since when? How long has it taken you to raise that?
Since September last year.
You've done 60K in well, that to me is a short space of time. Yeah. So
you see, I tried earlier than that, but people were like, December 24, that's way too far away. And they weren't even thinking about it. So from September last year, so between September and Christmas, 30,000 has happened this year over the space of the last sort of 6 weeks or so. And that is enabling me to complete the purchase of the boat.
And is this from individuals or is this from businesses?
It's a combination.
Right.
There are
sponsors.
It's gone completely out of my head what I was going to say.
It's all right, because I mean, in terms of, again, 120,000 is.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. I've got it.
Go on.
So the other costs include the entrance fee to the race itself.
Right.
So because it is a race, it's an organised event, and one of the reasons why I chose to go with it's a company called Atlantic Campaigns that are running it, and the event is called World's Toughest Row Atlantic, and they have a massive list of rules and regulations that you have to abide by, but it's all for your safety and security. And, because I'm out there and exposed to the elements, that I want to know that I've done as much as possible to keep myself safe, but also that they've got my back as well. And so there's a safety team that I'll be in touch with when I'm out on the ocean.
Where are they?
Land-based.
Right.
But I'll be in touch by satellite phone, so I'll be speaking to them every day, every other day. There are also a couple of support yachts that sail up and down the fleet, but they're not there to rescue you if anything goes wrong. They're really there, again, for advice, and they take lots of video and photos and that kind of thing as well. And they're also there to make sure that people don't cheat. So people do try and cheat.
How? What, in terms of like a shortcut, or someone picks them up in the middle of the ocean?
No, it's motors. So you're not using a motor, and
surely all that is checked, and they've done all the checks beforehand.
So they don't put anything up that could resemble a sail and that kind of thing, and because it's on a system.
Have people tried this before?
Yeah, people have been disqualified before for trying to cheat. Apparently, there's somebody that tries to cheat nearly every year.
Really?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they always clearly get caught.
Yeah. I'm not a cheater.
I'm just going to tell that.
And also, I just want I want the knowledge, to know that I've done
it yourself,
myself, and I haven't, accepted a bacon sandwich or something off a passing yacht, or
so even things like that, no food can get past, or nothing.
No.
Here's a bottle of water because you look a little bit thirsty.
No. It's totally unsupported. You have to be completely self-sufficient on the boat.
How big is the boat?
7.5 metres long. So it's just over, I don't know what that is in feet, 20-odd feet.
Right.
So there are 2 cabins. And so the one at the front is where I'd keep equipment, spare equipment and things. The one at the back is where all of the electronics are, so the radio, VHF radio, and the navigation system and that kind of thing. And that's where I'll be sleeping. There's an anti-collision system there as well, so there's an alarm that sounds if there are like container ships that come within 10 miles of where I am. Because obviously I won't be able to move out of the way very quickly, but they can alter their course. So
you just mentioned there, that was one of my questions, was going to be sleep. Because I'm thinking, surely you can't be expected to row all that way and not catch 40 winds. So how does that work? Because you're just going to be bobbing around in the ocean. I mean,
so the other teams. So when I row, there'll be 43 teams taking part altogether.
Okay.
The team sizes vary between solos like me and teams of 5. Mm-hmm. And the larger teams will row in shifts. So they generally do 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And so they can
rotate. I can understand that.
They get rest and sleep. But obviously it's different for me. So I'll be rowing until I need rest, and then I'll eat something, drink something, have a bit of a rest, and then crack on. And I suspect, I won't know until I'm actually out there and doing it, but I suspect that I'll be sleeping between like 11 and 3 or 12 and 4 at night, and then just crack on. So it's, I guess it's a bit like having a baby in that you sleep when you can.
But can via the whatever sort of electronics are in one of the cabins, is there something that can still keep you on course?
Yeah,
whilst you're
steering the boat, you can hand steer the boat, but you can lock the ropes off. The ropes are attached to the rudder, and that steers you.
Right.
There's also something else called an auto helm, which attaches to the tiller arm, and that contains a little motor that drives the tiller arm and makes adjustments during the night while you're asleep. And so it keeps you on course. But there are going to be contra currents as well. You're going to be, it won't all be plain sailing in the right direction towards Antigua. And so for those times when the wind's blown in the wrong direction and the currents are headed the opposite way, then you put out something called a para anchor, which is like a parachute that you deploy under the water, and it creates drag, and you end up going around in a circle rather than being dragged off too far in the wrong direction. So it keeps you more or less in place until the wind has changed, until the weather's a bit more favourable, and then you can crack on.
How long is this going to take?
70 days.
Really?
Yeah.
And when do you start? Is it beginning of December?
It's the 12th of December we're due to set off. It depends very much on the weather, whether the weather window is right, but it's generally around the 12th of December. If I get there by the 20th of February, that would have been my mum's 90th birthday.
Really?
So I'm aiming for the 20th or before. That would be great.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's almost as if it's fallen this year for that kind of completion date. And there was was meant to write it down, but I had so many other facts as well that I wanted to jot down. There was a great quote that you'd mentioned that mentions magic. Can you remember this? I'm assuming it was you that mentioned it.
It was me. I think that was something that I'd written for an article for Powder.
That's what it was from.
And,
in fact, can I cheat and look at my phone?
Do you want me to have a look for it?
Yes, Liam. You can jump on it. If you put in Viv Barclay into Google, and then I think it's about the 4th article that comes up. From Powder, can you see?
From Powder?
Yeah. And Viv Barclay. Is it there?
The menopause supplements, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there should be an article. I should have just picked up my phone and done it. No offence to you, Leah.
There's some things that, you know, like how men can be absolutely useless.
Sorry.
You give a... See if you can find...
We're not saying a word, Liam. We're not saying a word. Right, let's have a little look. Because like I said, I just saw it and I just thought it was. Here we go. Let's see if my... does my reception even want to... Well, now my reception is... Oh, here we go. Let's have a look. It says... There's a difference between letting go and giving up. So I remind myself that occupying the space of possibility is where all the magic happens.
Cracky, I said that.
And I just read, like I said, I was meant to write it down, but I got caught up with everything else. But as soon as I read that, I thought that's brilliant.
It's... I do have to remind myself to of that and to keep going. So there's been at least 3 times since Christmas where I thought this is just not going to work and I'm going to have to withdraw. And even as recently as last Tuesday, it's getting the money together.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So as recently as last Tuesday, and I thought...
It's not your determination then that's caused you to think like that. It's just
because you know, my priorities are not the same as, you know, the businesses that I'm speaking to about sponsorship, they've got a different set of priorities to me.
Right.
And so when I'm speaking to them and saying, right, great that you want to sponsor me, and they've got other, you know, they've got the business of getting on with their business to do. And then whether they're going to sponsor me or not is like down at the bottom of their list of priorities, whereas, you know, it's top of mind. Mm. And so, unfortunately, there have been some people that have said, yes, we'll sponsor you, and then completely ghosted me.
Not come through.
And I find that really difficult to deal with, because I'm like, why say yes if you're not going to do it? But anyway, who knows what's happened? And I don't want to be unkind to anybody, so who knows what's happened in the meantime? And they're probably well-intentioned. Yeah. And then other people... it just takes a long time. It just takes a long time. And
are these local businesses that you're approaching?
A mixture of local and national.
See, my brain automatically just goes into business mode, thinking, right, I've already got someone in mind who is up. So we'll have a little chat.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not going to put anybody out there, and no pressure. But also as well, for anyone who's listening or watching, then get sponsoring, basically.
The reason to do it is obviously it's a massive PR opportunity because people get, depending on the size of the donation, they get like their branding on the boat. So there's a lot of space to put a big brand. You know, there's a lot of space to put a logo. But it's not just that. And it's, as I was saying to you before, it's an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of 15.5 million women in the UK. And that's what people are, you know, that's what they're getting from it, is knowing that they've made a difference in the lives of so many people.
And you've, like I said, you're halfway there at the minute. You've got another 60k to go. What's your deadline on the 60k? What is this something that can come through in phases?
Yeah.
So obviously, if you've got the beginning of December or early December, the 12th of December.
12th of December.
You've got 12th of December. What is your cut-off point? I need to have that full 120k by when?
End of October.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're going to do that. You're going to absolutely smash that. Yeah, I know. It probably doesn't feel like it necessarily, like you said, on a daily basis, but.
You know, it's once you've completed one thing, it's like then you start looking to the next thing, and then it's like, right, well, where's that going to come from then? And so it's like, you know, one thing's ticked off your list and then you're on to the next one. And so you'd think that getting £30,000 together to pay for the boat, I'd be going, like that. And I was, but I was completely exhausted afterwards as well, knowing that I'd done that. And then it's like getting myself together again, to do it all again, to crack on with phoning people. And I've been reluctant to phone people because it's felt like cold calling, and I've not had really good experience with. But it's not that. It's not cold calling. And I've had really good experiences of speaking to people on the phone, and they've been so receptive, and they've been like, "You doing what?" You know, so it's been a really good experience so far. So we'll see what comes of it.
Well, like I said, I don't know how much we can help from the Nattabox podcast, but I'd like to think there's going to be someone that's tuned in, and via all my LinkedIns and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to be pushing it out there as much as possible, because like I said, I can't, especially as well with you mentioning that it's so significant a time in with what would have been your mum's 90th birthday. I think that's, like I said, that's special, and it's definitely for a reason. Probably a strange question. Are you a nature lover?
I am. And so I love the forest, but I love the sea. Right. Unsurprisingly. And I always have loved the sea. I've always been drawn to it. And I'm not, a lot of the rowers, they're scared of getting off the boat in mid-Atlantic because you have to get off to clean under the boat. So as you're rowing along, there are little sea creatures like barnacles and what have you attached to the underside of the boat. And if you allow that to build up, then it slows you down.
I was going to say,
it spoils the hydrodynamics. Right. Yeah. So you have to get off and use like a windscreen scraper, basically, to scrape them all off. And but yeah, I mean, it freaks people out because they can't see the bottom because it's like 14 kilometres down. It freaks people out because there's, all of the lovely little sea creatures out there swimming around and what have you. So, but I used to dive.
Did you?
And so I'm not. It doesn't freak me out at all.
See, now because I'm a Cancerian. Sorry, Liam.
So am I.
Are you really? See, we go. There we go. When's your birthday?
28th of June.
Snap. Stop it.
But it's meant to be.
That is crazy.
Wow.
That is nuts. That's nuts. See what happens with my crystals. See, you laugh about it. That is crazy. No way. Yeah, 28th of June. I knew there was something magical about this connection. That's really, really freaky. So as a Cancerian, I love water, love the sound of it, love being in it, love being on it. But I have what I call a respectful fear of the ocean. And I think it's beautiful, absolutely love it. But I've just got this massive fear of just not knowing what is around you. And I was sat with my mum and dad cooking some a nice roast yesterday, and we ended up watching, I think it's Mammals. There's a new series, a new Attenborough series on BBC One. And I love all nature documentaries and everything. We sort of sat there, and my dad's into photography. He said, "Would you do this day?" I said, "No." He said, "Even if a goldfish came by me," he said, "I'd have a panic attack." So he'd be useless. But you're seeing it's the vastness of the ocean. Like I said, I love nature. Just the thought of being out there and being able to look at the stars when I go to the States. It sounds really fancy, but my friend's got I think it's just under 80-foot yacht. So we go to like Catalina Island, and to be able to sit there and just be at one with nature. Sea lions come up, the little baby sea lions to the back of the boat. I can fully appreciate all of it, but it puts the fear of God in me just to think. So the fact that you are someone that hasn't got that fear, I've got that admiration for you anyway.
Not so far.
Right? She's just like, Natalie, can you stop talking, please? I was all right till I came to see you. But, I mean, that's just added a whole new level of you are fearless. Do you consider yourself to be fearless?
No, I don't.
Really?
I don't.
Despite what you're looking to do?
Yeah, but just as you're saying that, I'm wondering, am I equating like fearlessness with self-confidence and self-belief? And I know I can do it.
Yeah.
I think I've struggled with self-confidence. And I really enjoy presenting in front of people, for instance, right? And that's when I was coaching, that's part of what I was doing. And I really felt like I was meant to be doing that. I was really sort of coming into my own. It was very satisfying and very fulfilling as a job for me. But it scared me. It scared me what people thought of me.
Yeah.
And getting feedback, and if there was any negative feedback, it was crushing. But this, I don't know. There isn't sort of. I don't have that level of nervousness yet. So I just know, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why taking on a challenge like this at this age, because you can bring all of everything that you've learned beforehand, all of your previous experience. And I just know that, well, it's okay. There are certain things that I don't know how to do at the moment, but I'm going to learn how to do them. I've done it before.
Yeah.
Other people have done it before. And because other people have done it before, there's absolutely no reason why I can't. There's nothing that differentiates me from them. As human beings, they're probably all walking around with a whole bunch of insecurities themselves. That, me from the outside looking at them would wonder, why on earth would you think that about yourself? And them looking at me would probably think, why on earth would you think that about yourself? But we all do, don't we? We've all got our own insecurities. So
everything that you just said there, and I mean, Liam can probably vouch for me because I've had this conversation with him, but the lack of self-confidence is something that I've had for a good while. But I enjoy presenting and I enjoy connecting with people. But there's certain things that have happened in the last sort of, several months that have made me question, maybe I'm not good at what it is that I do, or so on and so forth. And it puts a little bit of a sticking block, hasn't it? And even when I've said this to Liam, I know that he's sat there thinking, you? But yeah, you have those. So everything that you just said there 100% resonates with me completely, because I've been there, and to a certain extent I think I'm still in it. But that's why I love doing this, because it allows me to speak with people like yourself that, again, for that exact reason, makes you think, do you know what? Just do it. Or you sort of sit there and you're conscious about what's so-and-so going to think, or, and it's like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
If you're doing it for the right reasons and your heart is in it, I think it's just getting to a point in life where you're thinking everything now for me has got to be about quality and not quantity. And I think that's where you either sit on one side of the fence or the other. So thank you for obviously being as open with me and us about that, because I needed to hear that now as well, just as much as probably some people who are tuned in. Viv, how do you define happiness, and how has that evolved over the years?
I used to think that happiness was something that you attained, that it was like something that you went to the supermarket and bought, something like a commodity, It didn't really occur to me that happiness was part of the standard package, if you like, that we all come with happiness installed. It's not something that we have to go out and achieve. And so I know now that everything passes. Right, so there's another quote, this too shall pass. Yeah. I found really, really helpful to be more in the moment when I'm really enjoying myself. Mm-hmm. Like, spending time with my girls and really appreciating the women that they've turned into. Spending time with my dad.
Yeah.
Appreciating my brother a little bit more than I used to, because, we've had a bit of that. So those moments, this reminded myself this too will pass. This really helped to keep me
almost grounded
in the present moment, but also in those times where where things seem like they're really out of control, and I'm getting distressed. that it comes back to me as well, that this too will pass. So nothing's ever permanent. But our sense of mental health and well-being is a given. So I know that underneath it all, I'm okay. So I know the recent stresses that I've had over creating the money for the boat and what have you, that it's very surface level. So that the whole row, the whole experience of the row is like a massive metaphor for life and looking at the sea.
Yeah.
Because the sea is it can be very choppy.
It can be calm.
Yeah. It can be really, really stormy. But underneath, it's okay.
Yeah. It's constant.
It's constant, yeah. And that's who we are underneath, that we're always okay. Yeah. It's just that on the surface, our emotions, drag us in one direction or another, and it doesn't seem like it. So my happiness is a constant. It's not something that comes and goes.
And what do you think, or what do you consider some of the key contributing factors to happiness? So whether that's, like relationships or money or, I don't know, success.
I think none of them have anything to do with happiness at all. I think my happiness doesn't depend on how much money I've got. It doesn't depend on how successful or not I am. It doesn't depend on whether I'm in a relationship with a partner or not. It's already there. It's all about being in the moment and remembering that. So I'm extremely fortunate. I've still got my dad. Yeah. I've got my two beautiful daughters who I'm really, really proud of. What more could I want?
And when it comes to facing challenging times, then how have you dug deep to overcome those adversities? And how, if anything, as well, how has that kind of shaped your perspective on life?
There was a time when I would just take myself off to bed, and I would. So when things got too difficult to deal with, I would just go and hide under the cupboards, and I would emerge when I.
That's the Cancerian in us.
Yeah, when I felt strong enough to do it. While I lived in Spain, it was tumultuous. And so I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. But I was diagnosed with having Crohn's. I was ill, and I was hospitalised for a little while. And then when I came out of hospital, I said to myself, there is no way that I am going to be ill, and I am going to get over this. And I knew it would take me a while. So for the next 2 years, I don't want this to sound really, really naff. It's not meant to sound naff, but I focused on healing myself.
The power of mind.
There was absolutely no way that I was going to be ill, because there was just me and my kids, and I had to be there for my kids.
Yeah.
And so I made myself better.
I don't think that's enough at all. I think there's a lot of people, when it comes to certain illnesses and everything, that, not to say that they can heal some of the biggest illnesses that you can have, but I think people underestimate the power of the mind. And the thing is as well, stress, I've said this before, stress is one of those things that people underestimate how much of an impact stress can have on the body, even in terms of just when certain, aches and pains and ailments, and it can manifest in certain areas and in certain ways. So
can you see this around my eyes at the moment? I think that's stress related.
Really?
So I went to the optician. No, I went to the pharmacy about it because I couldn't get an appointment at the GP. So I went to the pharmacist, and she gave me some antibacterial gel. But she said to go to the optician because it could be ocular shingles. And I thought, oh no, shingles, that's completely stress related. And so I did go to the optician. It's not ocular shingles, but I still have this problem around my eyes. But I do think it's to do with stress.
Yeah, no, power of the mind, which brings, you mentioned as well in terms of sort of self-care before, but how important then do you consider maintaining your well-being and overall self-care to be?
I do think it's really important, but everybody's got their own different ways, haven't they? And so last week, I really needed some downtime last week because I felt really exhausted after getting this all sorted. And so I just took a couple of days to myself, and I didn't speak to anybody, didn't see anybody, didn't go out. I walked the dog, and that was it. So going out with the dog, we go down by the river and through some woodland, and that always makes me feel better. Always does.
My little walk around here, I do my little lap of the fields. It is. Do my little lap of the fields, and as you go through, there's usually about 4 horses in the field, and there's one in particular, and it's usually on the days when I'm just feeling at my my lowest ebb. That for some reason, there's one horse. It's almost like he knows. I mean, horses. I think his horse is beautiful anyway, but they're very, very sort of susceptible creatures, very sensitive.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people use them as for sort of therapy, whether it's with youngsters or people with learning difficulties. I think people now take them into certain hospitals because they just almost have this healing element. So yeah, I've got my little circuit here, and I was sort of everyone probably thinks I'm mad because I do stop and talk to the horse. I do listen. Just what I do. Okay, it's just my little thing.
I mean, my dog's like that, though. He'll come and give me a nudge, or, he's
my
not...
little Brandy passed away, bless, but yeah.
So I've got a black lab.
They can definitely tell.
Otto. And he comes and gives me a nuzzle, and it's always good to know, So, and there is truth in that, the power of stroking pets, that it is very calming.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm glad he's there.
Thanks. Well, my final question is, what is your go-to song when you have a song that you want to, just as you're sort of pick me up, whether you're having a day where you're feeling a bit of a funk, or you're just thinking, do you know what, I want something that's just that's my tune. What would yours be?
Well, funnily enough, with you speaking about horses, it's a song called Hollow Horse by the Icicle Works.
Didn't even think about the connection as well there.
And it just...
Why that piece of music for you?
There is just something about it, because it's to do with dreams. Okay. And there is just something about it that really connects with me on a heart level. And I don't often feel moved by music, but that just gets me. And
because we're putting a playlist together so that everyone gets the chance to just hear, and it's going to be so versatile as well in terms of everybody's choices. But I know when we spoke briefly before we started, that you say your daughters are putting a playlist together for you for your journey.
Yeah. So that every time something comes on the radio, or if we've got TV on or something and there's a song that comes on, then I say, oh, add that to the playlist, add that to the playlist. And so we've got about 24 hours worth of music on the playlist at the moment. Yeah, so lots of different genres. Not so much sad stuff. Mm-hmm.
It's the last thing you need while you need the incentive. You've got another 2,500 miles to go.
But yeah, and not so much. I mean, there is a bit sort of like what you'd call driving music, a bit of rocky stuff as well, I suppose. What's another song? The Crowded House and Weather With You.
Yes,
I like that
nice.
As well. I love it.
Yeah, I'll bang that on as well. And just before I sort of say my final farewells, so what have we got here? We're going to be able to do a little zoomy at the end or something on these. But we've got, so this is the challenge that you're doing.
We've all got team names.
That one.
And my team name is a little play on words. So mine is momentous, not momentous. So momentous because I'm a mummy.
What she's done here, lovely.
And so this is all, I'm raising money for the menopause charity. So it's got information on there about it being a record-breaking row. So there's a little map that shows where I'm going from and where I'm going to.
Yeah.
And then some information about how to donate. And then I've got a couple of links. I've got a couple of affiliate links.
We're going to be adding all of that, yeah.
And then just my Instagram handle.
How are you going to feel when you see your daughter standing there waiting for mum to come in at that finishing line in Antigua?
I visualize it. When I visualize it, it is so vivid.
Don't, you're going to get me going. Don't. You're going to get me going.
And I just know there's one of the head safety officer is a guy called Ian Couch, and he always goes up to the fort in Nelson's Dockyard. And as soon as we cross the finish line, that he lights a flare, and then the rowers light flares as well. And so Ian's there with his flare aloft, and the rowers are there with their flares aloft as well.
Welcoming you all in.
Yeah.
Liam, do me a favour, just grab me a tissue.
Thank you.
Please. Sorry, I've got a little pack of tea. This is the first guest I've had to get a little perfect Kleenex sponsorship opportunity, and I've just thrown it right away. Sorry.
I am a crier. I do,
Listen, it's good to let it out.
Since menopause as well, even more so.
Really?
Yeah, even more so. And somebody said to me, they do NLP and hypnosis, and they said, "Oh, I can change that for you." And I'm like, why would I? There's nothing wrong with it.
No.
It just
it's a build up. If you keep it in,
shows,
it helps to build, and it ends up being stuck in there somewhere. So
just shows how much it means.
Exactly. And I think, like I said, what you are doing is a phenomenal task. That, as I said, I mean, I've done a 10K, a pretty muddy run for one of the I think it was like a breast cancer charity a few years back. But there is, I'll be honest with you, there is no way, probably as well because, like I said, my slight fear of the ocean. But you are a phenomenal human being. And for those times when you might be sat there over the sort of the coming months thinking, oh my gosh, if you're waiting for that sort of that extra little bit of funding to come through and you're thinking it's not going to happen, just don't forget to remind yourself just how special you are, because there's not many people out there that would take on this kind of a challenge, especially with no kind of I don't know, history in rowing and
prior experience,
all of that. So yeah, don't underestimate yourself on that front. And like I said, huge admiration for you. I'm already rooting you on. So when it comes to obviously knowing, I wish it's one of those, if I win the lottery between now and then, I might even just say, do you know what, Liam, do you fancy a trip to Antigua? We'll do a nice little follow-up. So I know he wouldn't say no. I know the reasons you wouldn't say no either. But no, just thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I always throw it to Liam as well. Liam, is there anything that you would like to ask Viv? I've covered a lot of bases today, I know.
Do you get to keep the boat afterwards?
No.
Good question.
There's already a team from the race in 2026 who will be buying the boat from me. So that's already, it'll get passed on. And the boat is called Jack Keane. And so we call him Jack. And
is that a name that stays? No one gets to rename it. That's just
no. You're not supposed to rename boats. I mean, people do for special reasons, but no, you're not supposed to rename them once they're named. So the first guy who had it built, it was named after his granddad, I believe.
Right.
And so it's he's I'm going to make friends with Jack over the summer. And because
Jack's going to look after you.
He's going to look after me, yeah.
You're going to be in good hands, I've got no doubts. As I mentioned, we're going to be putting up links to yourself, whether it's your business websites, all social media links, as well as the charity links and any kind of GoFundMe pages that you've got. And also we'll put a link up there as well to Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's it.
With a little play on words for the old, for the food wraps. But Viv, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honour to have a future world record holder as well. That's what, just to, again, not to add the pressure on, but you are a future world record holder that is sat here. I almost feel like I'm sort of getting a semi-exclusive. So, and like I said, I appreciate the fact that you've travelled all this way. So, Viv Barclay, thank you very much for joining us on the Nattabox podcast. In the meantime, for yourselves who are either listening or tuned in and watching, then thank you as always. Don't forget to do the usuals, to click like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Nattabox. Take care.